We've been exploring some various Baldur's Gate tactica, looking at some of the different monsters, looking at the classes, party optimization, potions, magic items, and now I want to focus on the narrative perspective of the game. No spoilers here, or I should say no primary spoilers. The tactics of dealing combat versus opposing parties. What's interesting about Baldur's Gate is, yes, there's an overall story. There's quests that you can go on that both support the primary story and kind of build that narrative, and also side quests and areas to explore of the Forgotten Realms. But there's also a tactical element of it, almost a war game type element of it. You really need to master the party working together, the various character classes, spells, abilities, buffs. Many of the monsters, even in BG1, are more powerful than the individual or even the party. So you need to kind of exploit their weaknesses or find a temporary way through spells, potions, and cleric spells, both divine and arcane, to triumph. And that makes for a really, really interesting battle. However, when facing opposing parties, and we see quite a few of these that scale in the game, it's kind of PvP, party versus party. And we really, really need to be aware. So the first aspect, of course, and this is true of any of the area maps, there's the fog of war. There's the undiscovered. And the various monsters and encounters just kind of sit there until they see the primary character or party member. And that will initiate combat or initiate dialogue. Sometimes you can escape combat. Sometimes you can't, but you can kind of find a little bit more about the backstory and why they're going after you. At that moment, combat begins. And what you see with these various parties is the fact that they kind of mirror your own party. There's going to be that tank. There's going to be that cleric. There's going to be ranged attacks. And there's going to be magic attacks. So we need to figure out what we're going to target and how we're going to go about that. The first thing of party versus party, be ready. It's not even don't be afraid. Be ready to utilize the pause button. Be willing to freeze for a moment, kind of see what's going on. Now, Baldur's Gate is what you see is what you get. It's WYSIWYG. So if you see a character in robes, you know they are an arcane caster. If you see them kind of in leather, you know they might be a ranger or stealth-based. And of course, fighters and warriors and barbarians are going to be jacked up with arms and armor. You get an idea. So when encountering a party, hitting that pause button right away and just picking out the primary roles. Who's the arcane caster? Who's the tank? Who's the buff, as in the cleric? And what are the ranged elements? What are the close combat-based elements? The first thing that I want to target, that we go through, I want to target spellcasters. Because even in BG1, first thing they're going to do is get their defenses up. They're going to go mirror image. They might have various duplications. They might do invisibility or improved invisibility, depending on BG1, BG2, or Siege. Being able to interrupt a spellcaster and then continue the interrupt is absolutely key. Because as soon as they get those first defenses up, then they're going to start blasting you with charms, with magic missile, with lightning bolts, and other types of spells. The quickest way is to utilize a wand. To have a couple of wands, because the activation time, this is pulling on advanced Dungeons & Dragons rules. The activation times for wands, for certain spells and certain items increases. Being able to blast out with a couple of wands or attack with a missile weapon, then follow up with magic missile or arcane attacks of your own on the spellcaster means you're hitting them as they cast their spell or before they cast their spell. There's a chance, a very good chance, for an interrupt or a fail. We need to get that going. We need to keep that going. Now, at that point, I like to get another character up there. I won't say a primary tank, but maybe a monk or a thief or an assassin. Get them up to put them out. Tank to tank, that's where we're going to go. We're going to go tank to tank. I'm going to send my tank versus the opposing party's tank. The other ranged attack. I want to deal with that ranged attacker as best I can by sending another monk, tank, attack character to engage it. Because the range characters in BG, while they're attacking with bows and crossbows, they're going to use explosive shock. They're going to use magical arrows against you. And the rate of fire combined with the damage, it's pretty potent. It can wear you down quicker than you think. Just thinking, well, I'll take 2 or 3 hits. We'll see what happens. That goes much, much quicker than you think. So I want to get someone up there to deal with that. Now, let's talk about 2 other elements that are very, very important, which the cleric is going to be looking to do in your party or other possibly mages. Hold person. Hold person is huge. Being able to fire off hold person or the kind of arcane magic user horror equivalent. One holds, the other one has other characters kind of running around doing crazy things. That's a combat interrupt, meaning the hold person or the horror that you catch, yes, they have to make saving throws. Yes, you have to be in range and see them. Yes, you have to get your own spell off. But that has the possibility of now at least taking that area of effect of who it's affected out of the combat. Being able to fire those off is massive. Heals. You got to be ready to heal. Hopefully you have some healing pots in the quickie click bar ready to go. I prefer that because while the cleric could heal if you have that memorized, just kind of cure light wounds at the lower levels, I'd rather be spending the time spamming holds or spamming other area type effects, perhaps if I'm playing a druid, but having the ability to heal. You might have to pull the cleric in, then to heal. 2 other things that can make the fight a little bit more easy, because some of these fights, PvP, party versus party, are very challenging. Potions. You can pop some potions to boost your strength, to give you some resistances. The challenges there are they are finite in the game. There's a lot of potions, but they are finite. And it's gold resources. The whole idea I'm fighting these other parties is to get their gear and upgrade mine, or get their gear, and if it's not an upgrade, sell it. I don't want to make, 2 or 3K in gold for the items I sell, but I popped off 2 or 3K in potions. But I'm not afraid to utilize them if I have to. Summons also tremendously make a massive, massive difference. Summons, if they're skeletons for your cleric, if they're monster summoning 1 or 2, just to get some more hit dice into the game, just to get some more targets into the game to send them up there. The final layer, and this comes later in the game, the ability to haste and the ability to bless early on, but especially to haste, to get your defenses up, get your buffs up, pop off a haste spell, especially on summons, that's got some tremendous, tremendous bite. Optional bonus points for going PvP. The use for the rogue, the thief in the party, hiding or invisibility, if you cast invisibility, to scout out parts of the map. I like to scout out the unknown a little bit to get an idea of what I'm facing. And then, of course, if you scout it out, I'm saying this is rules as written in the game. If I scout out the area and I see an opposing party waiting to activate and they haven't dispelled illusion or seen me, then I could back off a little bit and before the fight begins, pop off a wand of fireball or pop off fireballs or potions of explosion or potions of fiery burning. But again, we're spending gold pieces here if I can't do it with spells. Get in 2 or 3 mass area effect, mass damage hits. Get those in, and then follow up with the party and go to the attack. But PvP is a great, fun example in the game. And for some of the parties out there, it is a primary way to get some pretty solid gear. Some pretty solid +1, +2 gear in the low to mid levels. A couple of very interesting named items later on. So seeking out, engaging, and fighting these parties is very, very important to the tactica of the game.